Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hammer Territory podcast. This is episode 182. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Wednesday evening, and I'm joined, as I almost always am, by my friend Scott Coleman. Scott, I believe the headline of this podcast is going to say it all, and basically it is, what is wrong with the Atlanta Braves?
That is the $10 million question, Brad. I don't know if anyone knows what is wrong with this baseball team right now. 5-13. Says it all, doesn't it? I mean, there's no other explanation or there's no deep analysis. I mean, the team just has flat out sucked 3 weeks into the season.
Yeah, they're 5-13. I mean, 5-13 is not where I think even the biggest pessimist, acknowledging the tough schedule early in the season, all those things, no one, and I'm pretty good at being pessimistic when I want to be. I don't think anybody saw 5-13 as a realistic outcome after 18 games. If you would have told me the Braves were 8-10, I would have been like, all right, that sounds believable to me, given that they played a tough schedule, all that stuff. 5-13 was not believable, but here we are. That is the reality. 11% of the season is now over, so not nothing. 11% of the season's over. The Braves, as we just calculated before we started recording, even just to get to where they were last year. So the Braves won 89 games a season ago, and all of us were frustrated beyond belief. Even at that, remember, like they had to scratch and claw to get to 89 wins and sneak into the playoffs. Just to get to that point again, they have to win at a 94.5 win pace the rest of the way. And that doesn't guarantee you anything. Like 89 wins is not a guarantee of a single thing, even getting in the playoffs. So they have to play 95 plus win baseball to be even pretend to be guaranteed anything about playoffs. And there has been no sign of that to date. And I have been the one, in fact, our mentions filled with this today, kind of making fun of me for not panicking enough to this point. That's not who I am in general. But even I, as the one who has not panicked of the four of us probably so far, you don't want to panic, but man, it's getting worse and worse and harder to not panic to some degree here in mid-April.
Every single day on the calendar, it just gets a little bit worse and worse.
Yeah.
And you can say with a straight face that there is a lot of baseball to go. It is still early. That's worth saying. The Braves have had some really good teams at the end of the year that did not start out very well. They have not had a team that started out this poorly in a long time, at least among their competitive squads. But there was the famous team that was below 500 until July when they won the World Series. A couple years ago, they started out 18-20, which was a decent chunk of season. So yes, we can say objectively there is still time. But this team looks awful. And the same problems on day one are the same problems on day 21 of this season. The players are frustrated. We had a couple of expletives from Matt Olson and Spencer Strider today in postgame. So it's nice to show they care. Maybe Brian Snitker could get up like one time in his life and maybe argue with an umpire who is completely blowing the game or, whatever. Little victories here. It's just, I don't know, Brad. I'm out of words to say how frustrated I am with this team without getting a bunch of bleeps and bloops added in post edit. But man, it's just, in some ways, Wednesday's game was the cherry on top. A lot of excitement. Spencer Strider's back. Let's go. Let's rally this thing. Let's get back on the winning track. And what do? But they have a historically bad game with strikeouts at the plate. And I mean, again, man, and one other quick note. Our colleague Steven pointed this out. The Braves started out 0-7. Now, the Padres are awesome, and the Dodgers are really, really, really good. I think every power rankings you can find has San Diego and LA 1 and 2 in some order. So if you want to set aside that really brutal road trip to begin the year, you can do it, okay? Like, sure, they should have won a game or two out west, but two really good teams, tough to play on the road, all of that. But since starting 0-7, the Braves are still below 500. They are now 5-6 against pretty mediocre competition. Some games against the Phillies, some game against the Marlins, and then two middle-tier American League teams with the Blue Jays and the Rays. So even if you want to just expunge the 0-7 start, which you do not get to do, unfortunately, they're still sub 500 in the 2 weeks since that West Coast trip, and that just really underlies all the issues this team has right now.
Yeah, and you referenced this. I want to actually make sure we said it at some point. Spencer Strider, we love, number one. Love him. We'll talk about him a lot later in the podcast. He came back today. That's a good thing. One of the small good things is that he actually pitched and looked mostly fine today, right? He's also a guy who's known to be colorful, and he'll speak his mind, and he's a very candid guy, and I love him for that. Matt Olson is, while I love him, shared alma mater of high schools and all the things. Matt Olson's not exactly known for being the most colorful guy. Like, he's kind of a boring guy in a good way, but in a boring way, right? And he gave a quote that we'll pass along from, actually, courtesy of Justin Toscano, guest of this podcast for the AJC. I'm going to read it to you. This is from Matt Olson, who gets animated very, very rarely, like you said. Quote, "We're going to be able to flush this as best we can, but like I said, it can't happen. We got to play better. There's no secret to that. Sure, we got a lot of games left, but we can't do this bleep forever. We got to find a way to start playing better baseball all the way around." End quote. Now, nothing is about that is revelatory. We all understand that. Like, he's not saying, he's not breaking ground, nor is he trying to. But the fact that Matt Olson is getting to that point on the record with the media, they know, man. Like, I mean, I understand people always want more fire, and this is not a team that's known for its fire. That's fair to say. And when it's going well, they get praised for that. When it's not going well, they get killed for that, for being boring, for being milquetoast. All those words you want to throw out there. Personally, I am not someone, and this is just me, who really uses those things as like explanations for what's going on in the field. I don't really do that. But I don't blame people for getting mad about it when it doesn't work. I get it. But it's a good piece of context, and I want to overweight one quote. But when Matt Olson's throwing a little bit of a haymaker and swearing on the record to reporters, they're feeling it, man. Like, and they know, like, 5-13 is 5-13 is 5-13. Like, there's no faking it. We can give context. I try to give context and nuance. I know you do too. I know Steven and Sean do as well. We don't want to yell and scream and just give you no reason to listen other than just rants. Like, we want to give you the information. We're going to do that on this podcast. But they're 5-13, man. Like, there's no way around it.
It is caught on nationally to the point where on baseball talk shows, on Foul Territory, Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern, they have national writers talking about what is wrong with the Atlanta Braves. What is wrong with this team that won 89 games last season, despite all the injuries and so many things that went wrong, still won 89 games and made the playoffs, which is a really good outcome for 90% of the league. And this team that was coming off back-to-back 100-plus wins after a World Series and winning the division 6 years in a row, and it's just baffling. And let me ask you this, Brad, and I did not prep you on this.
That's fine.
But I tweeted about this a little earlier. 3 months from now is the absolute heat of trade deadline season in July. If you had to put your life savings,
oh no,
are the Atlanta Braves buyers or are the Atlanta Braves sellers this time in July?
I think if you polled Braves fans, they would say sellers. I'm going to say buyers, but I know I'm being myself with that answer. I can almost watch myself from the outside to know that I'm going to say this. I still think it's buyers right now. If they're still not even like at the pace they're on, if they're even playing 500 from this point for another 2 weeks or something like that, if they're 8 games under in 3 or 4 weeks, still 2 or 3 weeks, even if they haven't made a run of any kind, I will switch to sellers as my projection. I won't say it's for sure. It's just early enough, and there's still the projections and all of the talent they have on the roster, and Strider's back, and Ronnie's coming back, all those things. I will still slightly lean to buyers with my life savings. But you can hear my confidence level is not very high.
Yeah.
Do you have an answer? What's your answer? I have to flip it around on you. Give the other one. Go ahead. You want to. I can see it in your eyes. It's fine.
It's okay. It's probably a little reckless to say right now because, look, we fully get it. I know there's fans on all sides of the spectrum, right? Fans who would fire everyone tomorrow if they could, and fans who were like, guys, it's April 17th. Chill if we're still having this conversation in 6 weeks.
By the way, there are more of them on the fire angry side now than I think that there has been at any point in the last since the World Series run.
Sure.
I mean, last time the fans were this mad, not to derail you, but the last time the fans were this upset, I think, was the middle of 2021 when they were below 500. I think. Anecdotally. So maybe some playoff exits obviously induce some anger,
Sure.
but I mean like regular season wise, this is the most angst there's been. And by the way, that makes total sense to me.
And last year had challenging times. We're not going to
Yes.
overlook everything. But again, when Acuna and Riley and Albies and all those guys are hurt, I think they get a pass last year.
They also started hot, and that gave them cushion, right? They weren't playing well for a long time, but they were never like, oh, look at the standings and they're 15 games over 500. That never happened. They were always over 500. They were always in a decent place in the playoff race. Like there was never a dire point last year. It was like,
Right.
oh, if you're paying close attention, they're losing a lot. Like what's going on? But they were never in a hole. Now they're in a hole.
Yes. They're in a big hole. 8 games is not nothing. And sure, you can say, all right, well, if they have 3 good weeks, they're right back to 500 and then they can get back on track. And that could happen. But the fact that a very real conversation about are the Braves going to be buying or selling at the trade deadline at this point in the season is nuts. Because if you would have asked me a month ago if this was even a remote possibility, I would have said, no way. Sure, maybe they came out of the gate slow without Strider, without Acuna. We, of course, didn't know that Profar was going to get popped and that Ronaldo's shoulder would have the problem. But even objectively, there would be no part of me that would say, oh, man, I could see it going real bad. And I really hope, I genuinely hope deep down that we do not get to a point where it's an actual conversation of do the Braves need to sell off some of these players? But they got to figure it out soon, or they're going to find themselves double digits back of the Mets and the Phillies. And that's going to be nearly impossible to overcome.
It is. All right. I want to take a break in a second and hear from our sponsors. After that, I want to ask about the offense, talk about the offense a little bit, because look, as much as the pitching's not been the best, it has been the offense that's been the primary issue for the Braves this season. We'll get into some of that. The outfield, also a little bit of a ray of sunshine with Strider later on in the podcast, the preview of the upcoming Twin series, all that and more coming up in just a second.
Kratz, Mother's Day is around the corner. Do not overlook it, and you need to go the extra mile for Ma. I'm talking to everyone out there. Gift idea. Go.
Easy. Storyworth. Scrapbook with stories. You get pictures, stories. You send it out to people. They put their stories in there. It's super easy. They guide you through the whole thing, and it's a keepsake for life.
Right. They'll email you questions. You respond with an epic story. Everyone needs this, right? And Storyworth makes it so much easier. And that's why it has more than 40,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot with millions of stories preserved since they were founded over 10 years ago. Give all the moms in your life a unique, heartfelt gift you'll all cherish for years. Storyworth, right now, save $10 on your first purchase when you go to storyworth.com/foul. That's storyworth.com/foul to save $10 on your first purchase. Mother's Day is coming soon. Do not overlook it. Get it done.
Okay, Scott, we teased it. Let's talk about the offense for a second. We will talk about the games in a little bit of detail, but they were not fun. If you missed it, by the way, there was a positive show this week on this feed. Monday night, our guys, Sean and Steven, talked about a win. There was a win in the series. They lost the series to Toronto, but they'd win a game. But look, I have some numbers for you. Are you ready for these numbers? As ready as you're going to be anyway. You're not ready, I'm sure.
No, I am not ready, but we're going to do it anyway.
Okay, the offense has been a disaster. Okay, that's not breaking news to anybody, but just to put some numbers on it. The Braves have played 18 games. They have scored 61 runs in 18 games. That is fewer than 3.5 runs per game. That is terrible, obviously. Now, it looks even worse when you think about it this way. 25 of those runs came in 3 games. They won all 3 of them, which is nice, but that means they scored 36 runs in the other 15 games combined. That's less than 2.5 runs per game for 15 separate occasions. And unsurprisingly, they are 2-13 in those games. One more stat, and then we'll go to you, Scott. The Braves are now on pace, this is crazy, for 549 runs this season, which doesn't mean anything to anybody out of context. But last season, that would have ranked second worst in baseball over the full season, ahead of only a team in the White Sox that won 41 games. That was historically all-time terrible. The only team last year that scored fewer runs than the Braves are currently on pace for after 18 games was the historically terrible White Sox. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, I think it's probably implied, but I'll just say it. I can't imagine them being this bad offensively all year long. Maybe I'll be wrong. I can't imagine that. But to date, that's what we're talking about. Like, it's not even, we're not being hyperbolic. They have been as bad as basically they possibly could have been offensively through 18 games.
It's hard to comprehend. And what's, I think, almost crazy or even makes it more frustrating is that without runners in scoring position, this lineup has done a pretty decent job.
Yeah.
If you look at their stats in regular time, if you will, they're fine. Like they're not awesome, but I think they're top 12 or so now.
Yeah.
But with runners in scoring position, I mean, it's like I get called up. I get a phone call from Brian Snitker and says, "Scott, grab a bat. You're going up there." I haven't swung a bat in like a decade. What happens, man? Like they go to the plate and it's like everything they ever knew about baseball just goes out of their minds. Or maybe they're pressing so much and it's all mental at this point. I almost wonder if it is mental. Like in the clubhouse, there's this stigma of we suck with runners in scoring position. Let's get it going. And they all try to do something they can't. It boggles the mind how bad this team is with runners in scoring position. And if that would just balance out a little bit, it would solve so many of this team's problems because, again, they're doing a good enough job getting on base. The power has shown up the last couple of games, maybe even the last week, the power has shown up, which is a great sign. But with runners in scoring position, they are just lifeless. And it is just so frustrating because you get a runner in scoring position and everyone just kind of looks around and goes, okay, great, here comes a strikeout. Or no way they're going to get a hit here because truly for the entire season so far, they cannot put together a rally with multiple hits with runners on base. They just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I don't want to boil it down entirely to runners in scoring position. It's not always that. That's just the best proxy for it. It's a sequencing issue to some degree, right? And some of that's noise. Like I don't. This is where I'll put my boring analytical hat on. There's not a lot of evidence that there's a lot of skill to runner scoring position batting. Like there's theories about this or whatever, but maybe there is some. I think there is some. That's probably fair to say. Yeah. But it's more of a even when they've homered, for instance, they've been a lot of solo home runs. Like to your point, they are now, I believe, after today, like 7th or 8th in baseball in OPS with no one on base. Like they've been totally fine to good with no one on base, including a bunch of home runs. But if your hits don't sequence correctly, like look, they've not been good overall this season offensively. But if you just if you hide the runs column on FanGraphs and look at the rest of the overall profile, it isn't good, but it isn't like totally disastrous.
Sure.
But they can't sequence. Like when they actually do things, they don't come in when they need to come to score runs. And if you want to find some optimism, maybe that's it. Like that probably won't continue all year long, but it's happened so far. And all right, here's the number. Didn't you already say this? I'm not sure if you already said it. If you didn't say it, I'll say it. They're 24 of 132 this year with runners in scoring position. That's a 182 batting average. It's not a batting average show, but batting average matters more. It's a better indicator of with runner scoring position of whether you're going to score or not. A hit usually scores a run when there's a runner on second or third base. Not always, but usually. So that's tough. Now, I want to drill down a little bit. This is not an hour-long show about the offense, but referencing the same thing we said before about the overall numbers looking okay. A lot of the guys who are the standout guys for the Braves, they're not having great seasons, but the numbers look okay for Riley, for Ozzie, for Olsen even. Not great, but okay-ish, acceptable-ish. Marcell Ozuna's hurt right now. Talk about that later on. He's been fine this year. Sean Murphy, looking like Sean Murphy. Love to see that so far. He just came back looking like Sean Murphy. But I mean, Scott, it's impossible to overstate how bad the outfield has been. Like, I just named most of the infield, right? Other than shortstop, which we understand is not going to be a great spot at any point this year unless they make a trade, right? But the outfield has been, I mean, historically terrible. Like, I'm not exaggerating. Like, could not have been worse to this point. They do have what we hope is a standout in center field who's healthy and who's been terrible this year at the plate. But their corner outfield spots have been, I mean, truly dire, terrible. Which pick your word, woeful. They have a 37 WRC plus as a collective outfield this year. That's everyone who's played the outfield combined. 37. That is the worst in baseball by a lot. Well, I mean, some of that's personnel based. We've made fun of the lineup a lot when it comes out. Like, it just looks terrible. Brian De La Cruz is really, really bad. That's just one. It's not just him, but he's been really terrible. Jared Kelly's been really terrible. He had the one stretch where he had a bunch of walks in like 2 days, and everything else has been terrible the rest of the season. Stuart Fairchild, like, these names are bad in general, but they're also playing badly. And then there's Michael Harris. So I don't know. I've said a lot of words, but the outfield is the problem offensively. It's been awful.
Unbelievably bad. And look, Brian De La Cruz was a minor league signing for a reason. When he signed, he was with the Pirates last year. I have a great friend who is a longtime Pirates fan. And he texted me within about 5 minutes and said, "Why on earth did you sign Brian De La Cruz? He is the worst baseball player I have ever seen."
So you told me that, and we laughed about it at the time. I don't think it's true, but man, he's been really bad. I mean, I feel like we're being mean, and I'm not trying to be mean to Brian De La Cruz, who, by the way, it's a minor league contract signing. He shouldn't be good, but he's been so bad.
Yeah,
like so
unplayable.
Bad.
Yeah, but he has to play because
right.
Jurickson Profar decided to cheat. I mean, let's call this what it is. Jurickson Profar.
It would be helpful if he was playing. Yes.
Jurickson Profar cheating and then having his insane season and getting a big bag of money and then missing half of the year because he got caught cheating has completely screwed over the Braves in the outfield.
Yeah, it wouldn't fix everything, but there's a lot more plate appearances for the likes of Stuart Fairchild and Brian De La Cruz than we're supposed to happen.
And it was supposed to be Profar, Harris, who we'll get to in a second, and Ronald Acuna Jr. in a couple of weeks. And that was arguably going to be the best outfield in baseball.
One of them for sure.
And now for another 70 games, we have to watch some form of this disaster in the corners. I mean, I wonder if they just put Acuna out there in a wheelchair and just have his bat out there because, I mean, maybe he can't like fully cut loose in the outfield yet on that knee, but why not? What do you have to lose? Well, you have to be careful with Ronald, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
And then let's talk about Michael Harris.
Yeah, I mean, this is starting to come to a head now because, and look, I'll raise my hand. I thought Michael Harris was going to have a breakout season. I said as much on the podcast. I'm looking to be incredibly wrong about that so far. Again, it's 18 games. He looks terrible. He really does. He looks terrible at the plate. All of the hopes that you would have had that he would mature his approach, it hasn't happened. In fact, it's gotten worse through 18 games. I don't know what you do with that. I'm not pouring dirt on Michael Harris's career right now, but boy, he looks really bad at the plate.
I called him Jeff Francoeur. Called him Jeff Francoeur earlier.
I saw that our guy at Capitol Avenue had the picture of Jeff Francoeur teed up today for Michael Harris. It's making the rounds a little bit. It's scaring me. By the way, hurts my soul. Another Parkview High School guy to make fun. I can't make fun of people with Jeff Francoeur in good conscience, but the parallels are starting to be a little bit striking, which is unfortunate.
Our co-host Steven called Michael Harris Javi Baez earlier.
Painful.
And look, I don't think we're to that point just yet.
We're not.
Michael Harris has to figure something out. This guy has one of the worst swing rates of stuff off the plate of quite literally anyone in Major League Baseball. He had a plate appearance on Wednesday afternoon. I don't know if he saw a single pitch in the zone, and he struck out on 8 pitches.
I mean, if you haven't watched the plate appearance, I recommend watching it. But also, if you look at the game, whatever they call it, the baseball tracking, it's a full count. So he did see 3 balls, but he swings at ball 4. It's a 1.5 feet out of the strike zone to strike out with 2 guys on base. It was probably the single biggest plate appearances of the game for the Braves today.
Yeah.
In retrospect, it's a big high leverage moment, and it's one plate appearance, but it's not like his chase rate's way up, and it's not a full Michael Harris deep dive on the podcast today, but he is part of the problem. And you would hope that when you have this disaster with Profar, and you're right, that's on him. It happened. He should be people are mad at him and they should be mad at him. That's happening. Ronnie's not going to be back yet. I get it. The hope would be your guy you banking on, your former rookie of the year, potential future star center fielder would be able to carry them a little bit right now.
Yeah.
And it's been the exact opposite of that. He has been, by the way, I still believe Michael Harris. Like, I love Michael Harris. I really do. Like, I think the combination of traits he has, the defense, center field, the speed, all those things, it's really, really exciting. And I'm pro Michael, local kid, all that stuff. But when your approach is what his approach has been this year, with a new hitting coach and with a whole offseason to know that was his weakness anyway, it was already his weakness. Now it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
That starts to be a little bit concerning.
He is seemingly getting worse by the year, which is
I mean,
not what you want.
He has been by the numbers. Yeah.
Yes. His rookie year, phenomenal. 135 WRC plus, looked like a future MVP. His second year, which was his first full season, a 115 WRC plus, which is still good for a Gold Glove caliber center fielder, but a big drop, 135 to 115. Year 3, last year, 99. League average. And you want better than that for a guy you signed for 9 years or whatever that contract is. And now Michael has been one of the worst regulars in all of Major League Baseball. Deep down in my heart of hearts, I think Michael Harris turns it around, but he has to figure something out at the plate. Pitchers are never going to throw him anything in the zone.
They shouldn't.
Why would
would you? I mean, yeah. I mean, we obviously this is a pro Braves podcast, but if put yourself in their shoes for a second, if you're the opponent, there is no reason to ever throw Michael Harris a strike right now until he proves he can take a bunch of walks in a row. Like, I would never throw him a strike ever. Like, why would you? So again, the thing about Michael Harris that makes him so attractive as an extension candidate, as a young player, is that all he has to do is be a league average hitter. Like, would you want him to be more than that? Of course you would. But last year, Michael Harris was still a 3 or 4 win player. As league, he could be a really, really good, valuable player who's worth that contract without being a great hitter. That's why Michael Harris is so awesome. But you can't be this. You can't be this hitter. So I don't think anyone, again, just to say this out loud, no one believes he's going to be this. I don't think. But the trends are not where you want him to be. So we'll move on. But the offense has been as bad as people are saying that it's been. Usually I find fans are hyperbolic at times. Hold my beer on this, Scott. The fans are hyperbolic sometimes with their frustration when things are not going well. But honestly, it would be hard to overstate how bad the offense has been and how bad the outfield's been. And I wanted to just take a second to just say these numbers out loud and just be like, look, it actually has been as bad as you are envisioning it at random Braves fan X in Alabama or Tennessee or Georgia. It actually has been that bad, man. It has been. That's crazy, but it is.
My mentions every day are a disaster. And I also find myself nodding along with like 95% of the crazy stuff that's coming in because it's the same frustrations that I have and it's the same frustrations you have. And it's probably some of the same frustrations the players on the team have. And I thought it was a good sign that Matt Olson, one of the leaders on this team, a very well-paid veteran, came out and said, look, we have to be better. This is not acceptable. Spencer Strider said the same thing. And sure, it's just words. Why don't you win a couple of baseball games this weekend and kind of put your money where your mouth is? But yes, I mean, it is hard to overstate how bad this outfield is. And when it's 3 of the 9 hitters in your lineup, and you already have a shortstop position that, even though Nick Allen has been totally fine in that role, admittedly, it's a weak unit. I mean, that's almost half your team. That's a virtual zero right now offensively. And even if you had 4 just incredible stars at the top, it's still not good enough. You're just not going to win games that way.
Yep. It is both too obvious and not advanced enough in the analysis to just say, look at the lineup and look at the names in the lineup. But also it actually has been kind of easy to look at the names in the lineup and be like, hey, you know what isn't very good offensively? That collection of 9 players in that order, like from 5 to 9 almost every day, or 6 to 9 at least, has been pretty dire. And we'll leave it there for now. Okay, Scott, we'll get into the actual games very quickly, I promise, for everybody's sake. A little bit of Strider talk, which will be, again, positive. All of it's coming up in just one moment.
Take me out to my TV on FanDuel Sports Network. Yeah. Watch me some dingers and RBIs. I'm just glad they have my local team live for its roots.
Okay, Scott, let's go back briefly to Tuesday's game because we haven't covered that on the podcast yet. A 6-3 loss. We discussed the offense. I will say, as a shout out quickly, Austin Riley was scalding hot until today. He had a bad day on Wednesday, but he had a stretch of 8 games with a 277 WRC plus. That's pretty good. Austin went from people worrying about him in typical Austin fashion. Like, he has these stretches where he's just like incredible, and he just did it for a week. Cool. Love to see that. Offensively, whatever. It was the rare actual bad game from your guy and mine, Spencer Schwellenbach. So Spencer was okay through 4 innings. Everyone, though, I would say to your credit and everybody else's credit was watching, was like, hey, he doesn't look great today. He's not really doing what he's usually doing. And then eventually that turned from, hey, he's getting by with it till he wasn't getting by with it anymore.
Yeah. 5th inning spiraled badly. I think it was a stretch of 5 batters in a row who reached, and 2 home runs cleared the wall, and a 1-1 game became a 6-1 game very quickly. And even when Spencer was getting through it in the early innings, just the command was not there.
Yep.
And he was leaving stuff in the middle of the zone. He was getting hit hard. It was honestly kind of jarring to watch Schwellenbach not have his usual elite 80 grade command, because he just looked off, and he looked off from the very first batter of the game. He almost hit Vlad Jr. twice with a pitch in the first inning, which he never does. And from there on, it just, credit to Spencer. It's a testament to how good he is when he has like his D- stuff on the mound, that he can still navigate 4 innings and only give up 1 run. But that 1 inning at the very end just spiraled, and 6 runs, a 6-run opposition scoring is like a death sentence for this lineup right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the game itself is, we'll talk about whatever, but mostly just a blip. I think Spencer's command is usually awesome. If it happens again, you start getting a little bit more concerned, but like, it's 1 game. I'm not at all worried about it. It was you said it perfectly. It was just weird because he's not ever like that. And by the way, even including that start, he now has a grand total of, I believe it's 5 walks in 4 outings, even with that start included. So, and an ERA still in the 2. So, he's still on. If you're holding that Cy Young ticket, you still have a chance. Don't worry, everything's fine. Briefly, I'll ask you this: they had Baldwin and Murphy both in the lineup the last 2 days, which we called for. I know Sean and Steven did as well. After that didn't happen on Monday, it didn't change anything. But with Ozuna out, I thought that was the right decision. Did you have a thought about that? Just no brainer, basically.
Yeah, it was the obvious decision, and it really is a bummer that Baldwin and Murphy and Ozuna can't all 3 play.
Yeah.
Maybe the Braves are so desperate they give Drake a left fielder's mitt and say, let's see how it goes. But I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And I mean, just to say this out loud as well, Baldwin hasn't been like tearing the cover off the ball. I mean, the underlying stuff looks better than the actual numbers, as we've said a number of times, but I think it would be a little bit harder for the Braves right now in a good way if he was mashing, but he isn't. So they're not going to be as incentivized to get super weird with it, I don't think.
Yeah. He did get his first home run today, which
he did.
Was an opposite field shot on a ball that was almost off the plate. It just shows. I mean, I really hope the Braves, I think at the end of the day, the Braves find a way to ultimately make it work with Murphy and Baldwin. I don't know if it necessarily can be this season unless there's an injury. And we'll hope that Marcell Ozuna is back this weekend. But yes, it was the obvious decision to play both of those guys, especially with the current state of the lineup.
It didn't work, but yes, I agree wholeheartedly. And you already mentioned it. The only positive offensive thing that happened on Wednesday was that Baldwin home run. That was literally the list. We talked about it at the beginning. We'll breeze through, but the Braves made some history that you don't want to make on Wednesday afternoon. 19 strikeouts in a 9-inning game is a tie for the club record in a quotation mark setting for strikeouts in 9 innings. So almost the most I've ever had as a team. And if you don't know this, the history of the Braves is very, very long, 100+ years. Granted, this is a different environment. So I think their top 3 strikeout games are all in the last 5 years, because that's what happens now in Major League Baseball. But still, you don't want to strike out 19 times. Also, a new Blue Jays record, 4 strikeouts in their history on the other side, which tells you a lot as well. And of course, the Braves were 0 of 9 with runners in scoring position on top of everything else. So a afternoon to forget, except for one major thing. But anything else you want to add for Strider? Because Strider's the only ray of light from today, I would say.
Only thing to add, the home plate umpire was truly awful.
Yeah, it was
ABS and the challenge system cannot get here fast enough.
something, please.
I will personally build and install the cameras myself and then drive them to all 30 stadiums if it means that we get the challenge system. It was just, I mean, it was shocking how bad the umpire was today. I think it was Bill Miller, who's been around forever. It's always the umpire's name, so you know. It's like, oh, God, here we go. But, yeah, terrible plate, terrible game, terrible offense. I guess the one happy thing was Spencer Strider.
Okay, Scott, with that said, this segment is going to be brought to you by the folks at FanDuel Sports Network, where you can now stream Braves games. We'll tell you more about that in a second. But Spencer is going to be the spotlight on today's show because the Braves are losing. And if you want to find a spotlight, it's good to have Spencer Strider back. Now, he wasn't perfect. We'll acknowledge that at the top. But it was his first outing in 12 plus months, right? Cy Young caliber guy, looked like he was mostly himself. I think realistically, you shouldn't have expected him to be the 100th percentile version of Spencer Strider in his first outing. That was probably fair to say. But what did you make of what you saw on Wednesday afternoon for Spencer?
In some ways, it was very much kind of what I was expecting from Strider, is the Spencer Strider that we got. He was not necessarily the crispest or the sharpest that we have ever seen him. He labored a bit in the middle innings, but he was also still Spencer Strider. Opened up the game with back-to-back strikeouts, which was awesome. Had the slider working, had the fastball working at times. I don't think he necessarily had a great feel for his pitches other than maybe the slider today. But again, you said it. I mean, it's about 12 and a half months was the last time that Strider made a start. So I think there's things to build off here. The velocity was pretty consistent and didn't dip, which is always something you have to keep an eye on. And I'm sure just for that mental blockade for Spencer to get back out there on a big league mound, for him to get through that and have a pretty good start, even if he was probably left in for a batter or two too many. I think you have to be excited to have Spencer back, and hopefully this is a sign of things to come because the Braves desperately need him to be good.
Yeah, he touched, I think 98 was the max. He averaged like 95.5 miles an hour on the fastball. That's a little bit down from last time he was pitching, but that's to be expected, I think, especially early on, when the weather heats up, when he's getting stretched out, all those things. So nothing concerning there at all. The secondary stuff looked totally fine. Like, I thought he looked good. He didn't look 100%. That's okay. As far as like health-wise, looked fine. And I think he felt fine. He was not in the mood post-game to talk about himself, which I think is fair. I understand. Spencer, by all accounts, is a maniac in a complimentary way, competitive guy. He wants to win, and he was probably mad they lost today. It was also not his fault they lost today.
No,
at all. Like, if all this is very obvious, but he gave up 2 runs in 5+ innings. Like, that's doing your job as the starting pitcher, especially your first outing in more than a year. He was not the problem. And if the Braves just hit it all, they would have won, and they didn't hit it all. So here we are.
It's even more frustrating that you see a performance like this where if Spencer Strider is starting and you give up 3 runs, you should win that game. Maybe not 100% of the time, but you should win that game.
Should win more than you lose for sure. And that's not happened enough this year, to be sure. So yeah, Spencer, it's just great to have him back. We've said that leading up to this all the way through. One pitcher in particular is not going to save your entire season because he's only throwing every 5 days. But in theory, I do have some excitement levels still at 5-13 for a top of the rotation that has Sale, Strider, and Schwellenbach back to back to back. That is enough to get me excited. Now, I know Sale hasn't been Sale this year. We all understand that. Strider just coming back. Schway had a bad start yesterday. I still have personally a lot of faith in those 3 guys. After that, gets pretty dicey. We'll talk about that later on briefly. But I think if you want to find some excitement in your life, if you want to do your best Sean Coleman impression and just find the rainbows here in mid-April, that top 3 is enough to give it to me to some degree.
Yeah. That top 3, let's hope it's as good as we hope it's going to be. Grant Holmes was fantastic on Monday. That was a really good sign for a guy
this is a pro Grant Holmes podcast. We love him.
We like Grant, one of maybe the best start of his shortened big league career. Yep. And then we'll just I don't know, close our eyes.
Later.
Go out to dinner when Bryce Elder comes out. I don't know. We'll see. But hey, if the lineup can wake up, and that is so far from a guarantee, but if this lineup can wake up, and you mentioned sequencing earlier, if they can string together some hits and be better with runners in scoring position, this rotation is going to give them a chance pretty much every night. Can they get the hits? And then can the bullpen keep things calm? Because it's been a Jekyll and Hyde bullpen too. But yes, there are brighter days on the horizon, and let's hope that when Spencer wakes up in the morning, he feels fine and all that. But by all accounts, he looks great. He feels good. And the Braves really just do need him to be his usual self.
All right, more to come on the podcast. But first, a word from our friends at FanDuel Sports Network. You can now stream Braves games through FanDuel Sports Network, and if you use the promo code BASEBALL30, that's promo code BASEBALL30, you can start it off with a 30-day extended free trial at FanDuelSportsNetwork.com/packages. That is FanDuelSportsNetwork.com/packages. Promo code BASEBALL30. Offer expires 5/2/25, $19.99 a month after free trial. Cancel during free trial to avoid charges. Eligibility restrictions apply. Visit FanDuelSportsNetwork.com for details. All right, Scott. Let us dig in briefly to some news and then a quick preview of the weekend against Minnesota. And this will be breezy, we promise. Marcell Ozuna did not play the entire series against Toronto. They played a man down for 3 games. People were quick to make the Austin Riley comparison when he did not play for like 2 weeks last year and they just played a man down. Hopefully it's not that bad. It seems like they're hopeful he'll be back this weekend. And of course, they were in Toronto. There's some travel logistics there. He flew home to Atlanta. That's why he didn't go back to Toronto, it seems like. We won't probably know until Friday because they're off on Thursday, but it seems like it's going to be okay. They need him, obviously.
Yeah, we'll see if Marcel's able to get into a game this weekend. It obviously helps that he is a DH only, so he does not have to worry about chasing down baseballs in the outfield.
Or running at all, mostly. Just waddle.
He was pretty gimpy in Tampa Bay, that series. Not everybody, a lot of people caught it in real time of, oh man, did Marcell just hurt himself? And then he exited the game. But it seems like if you believe what Brian Snitker and others around the team have said, they think Marcell is going to be okay.
Yeah, nothing else to add there. Just need him back, and hopefully he's back as soon as Friday. Ronald Acuna Jr. got the sign-off that everyone was talking about for a couple weeks from the doctor. That's good to see. On track. Could basically start to potentially try to test himself and cut. We got questions about this all the time. Like, what does this mean? Like, right now, he can run in a straight line. And until you can do something besides run in a straight line, it takes time to ramp up. Also, you have to, if you're a hitter in baseball, you got to like see live pitching at some point. There's a process that has to happen here. They're thinking maybe a couple more weeks at the absolute earliest. I think Bowman said 2 or 3 weeks at some point. That was like a good sign because that could be like early May. We've been hearing mid-May for a while. We're all guessing, but it's obviously a good sign that he's been cleared. That's all I got.
Yeah, great sign. I still think there's something to my wheelchair idea in right field right now. But, I don't even know if
honestly, I bet you he can hit in a wheelchair because Ronnie's that good. I don't know if he can field in a wheelchair, but
yeah, he'd figure it out. He's a talented guy. He's young, athletic.
He is young and athletic. That's true.
I mean, the Braves did a good job of protecting Ronald from himself and letting that knee get as healthy as it's going to be. Now you just have to see how he progresses, and I'm sure there's going to be a day where he has some soreness or something going on, but you just want to get him back out there as soon as you can. And we know that Ronald's been able to hit. He's taken batting practice and all of that. Obviously, live pitching is different than batting practice, but I think that timeline, early mid-May sounds right, and it will not be a day too soon.
Yeah, we will definitely do a podcast that day. No matter when that day happens, it'll be a podcast. Greg Kimbrell made his Braves-ish debut, not an Atlanta Braves debut, but pitched in Double-A Columbus on Tuesday. Looked fine by all accounts, threw an inning, struck out 2. Every day the bullpen has any kind of issue. Someone calls for Kimbrell by mentions. I get it, but he was, as we joked about last time, he was just clearly not doing anything until the Braves signed him, so he's still in the ramp-up process. But hey, once he's pitching in games, like he could be up pretty soon, I would guess. He's a reliever. I mean, you don't have to stretch out. He'll be up fairly soon, I think.
Yeah, I think Kimbrell makes the team. I think they call him up. We did talk about that at one point, maybe a week or 2 ago, but it's $2 million. It's not a ton. And the fact that the Braves kind of recouped $6 million from the Profar suspension It makes sense to bring Craig up. They kind of have a carousel right now with a pitcher or two in that bullpen. So it'd be good to have Craig up. I would sure think maybe another game or two in Double-A. Maybe they shift him up to Gwinnett whenever the Stripers are home, and then he'll get his name called.
Yeah. Last thing on the news. This is very fast. Chadwick Trump, old friend, signed a minor league deal with the Orioles. So people ask us about bringing him back. He's no longer available to be brought back. And then Buck Farmer got released. I was very sad. People took your call for Emergency Podcast literally on Twitter, which made us all laugh when you called me out for Emergency Podcast. Some of it's tongue in cheek, but I do know Buck's family a little bit. I thought he was decent in spring, would have been useful, but that didn't happen. So maybe he had an opt-out we didn't know about as well. Like, that's obviously possible, but the era did not even really start. But RIP to the Buck Farmer era.
I like the idea of Buck Farmer. I poured one out for you, Brad. I know
it cost nothing. It cost nothing, everybody. It was a minor league contract. It's fine. I'm sad, but hey, in the last year, Jesse Franklin, my favorite prospect because he was a Michigan guy, got released. Like, it's all going badly for me. It is what it is.
Tough
Protect
times.
Matt Olson at all cost. All right. Before we get out of here, a quick look at the series against the Twins over the weekend. The Braves are off on Thursday. We're recording this on Wednesday night, but they're off Thursday. The Twins have seemingly figured it out a little bit. They had a really, really bad start to the year. They've won 3 of the last 4. So they're still only 7-12 with 3 of the last 4 wins, but they are winning recently. And hey, better than the Braves right now. Here's something for you. I did it kind of straight face as a semi joke on Twitter, but I said, don't worry, everybody. Bryce Elder is pitching on Friday. And that is happening. Bryce Elder is on the mound on Friday. So we covered this earlier this week. The Braves kind of surprisingly-ish chose to option AJ Smith-Shawver and not Bryce Elder. And we thought maybe they would skip Bryce Elder and have him be a long reliever or something. But as of right now, the Braves are it's not just like a educated guess. Like, they are actively listing him as a starter for Friday at home against Minnesota. Skid buster, Bryce Elder. Streak ender, Bryce Elder.
Bryce Elder against Chris Paddock, who is 0-2 with an ERA in the 9s.
A worse ERA than Bryce Elder. So there you go. A small advantage.
Saying there's a chance. On Apple TV, Brad, which I know everybody loves the Apple TV games. I will say, if you're still listening, and bless you for still listening to our ranting, but usually the good folks at Apple will email me a code that I can put on Twitter for a free subscription, free trial. So if you want that, I'll try to tweet it out if I get one. But yes, Friday night's game exclusively on Apple TV Plus.
Yeah, that's not going to be well received, especially after some losses. Braves fans not feeling great about themselves right now. I can't imagine there's going to be a mad rush to Apple, but hey, maybe people will do that. I'll be watching. I have Apple TV Plus. They're not paying me to say that, but I have it. Part of the reason why I have it is for baseball, and I have
Are you a
so.
Severance guy, Brad?
Never seen an episode. I'm a real guy.
Everybody tweet Brad and say you need to watch Severance right now.
I do a lot of sports. I just do a lot of sports.
It's worth it.
I get it. I've heard it's been good. It's fine. No judgment. I'm not anti. Just not haven't seen it. After Elder pitches on Friday to save the season, Saturday is going to be Chris Sale against Simeon Woods Richardson. Sale, after his last start, we'll all be interested to see how he looks, because he did not pitch well in his last outing and was pissed about it, and rightfully so. And big one on that one on Saturday. And then Greg Holmes pitches Sunday, and his follow-up to his aforementioned strong outing in his last start. So the Twins are beatable. The games are in Atlanta. I don't even want to think about what happens on this podcast Sunday night if the Braves go 1-2 or 1-3 this weekend. I don't want to think about it. So hopefully they'll just win the series. But win.
Please win. Please.
Yeah.
Please win. Please.
Winnable. Again, winnable. This is not like you're playing the Dodgers on the road. The Twins are not on paper terrible. They have some talent, but a series that the Braves should hopefully at least win 2 out of 3 games. And by the way, they haven't done a lot of that. They still haven't won 2 games in a row this year.
And it was looking so good because they had Schwellenbach on Tuesday night after a win. Grant Holmes was awesome. They dropped 8 runs in a few innings. It was looking good. And then, you know what happened? Schwellenbach, in almost a calendar year, has the worst start of his career. It just goes that way. It's been kind of a microcosm of the entire season. But I feel like we say this after every show. What's one more for the road? Maybe, just maybe, this series against the Twins is what gets the Braves going again. They have the Twins. Then I think they have the Cardinals at home, if I remember right.
Yes, that's
St.
correct.
Louis has issues. So the schedule is lightening up a bit. Then they go out west. They play the Diamondbacks, who are really
I was
good.
going to say, then they're coming to see you, my friend. They're coming your way in about a week. And listen, if the Braves are doing this, I don't care what you're doing. I know it's not down the street from your house. You're going to Chase Field and doing something. I don't know what's going to happen, but you're doing something over there. We're sending you as a correspondent to Chase Field.
There we go.
If things are going bad.
Live solo pod from the Chase Field after the Braves lose 9-0 for the fourth night in a row.
You and an iPhone straight into camera, just talking. I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, what are we gonna do?
There are always a million Braves fans out west at Chase Field, so maybe I'll just gather them and we can just get like a screaming session live on the podcast. It'd be great content. But
it would be fun.
I am gonna make the trip to Chase. Dear God, let's hope they're playing better baseball this time in a week. But again, winnable series against the Twins. Winnable series against the Cardinals. The Diamondbacks are good, but then they go to Denver and play the god-awful Colorado Rockies.
Well, I'm not going to say it. You remember last year when they went to Colorado and lost? Anyway, okay, moving on. Scott, it's been fun. It's been fun to talk to you on a Wednesday night. It was probably good for everyone that we didn't record this at 4:00 Eastern time today. I was working, you were working. We have day jobs and things, but a little cool down time. Still, I think appropriately negative is probably the wrong word. Doomerish at times on this podcast, but hey, we'll pull out of it. Here we are. Please, if you are new to the podcast, number one, thank you for listening all this way. But please go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or platforms, even Spotify, Apple, Overcast, YouTube, etc. Scott, where can folks follow along with you and your increasingly positive Braves tweets over the last few days?
I gotta just delete Twitter, man. It just works.
We all do. It's fine.
At Scott Coleman 55, if you want to follow there. We appreciate all the support for the show, even as this team has really, really, really struggled the first couple of weeks. We are here, win, lose, rain or shine. A lot of rain these days, a lot of lose. But maybe this, Brad, maybe we will look back at this very moment in time, deep on a Wednesday night. What is today? April 16th. People are listening on April 17th. April 17th, where were you when the Atlanta Braves turned their season around after listening to the Hammer Territory podcast? Sure. Why not?
Sure. Sign me up. It is our job, I guess, to talk about the Braves on this podcast. We do take it seriously. We do, like Scott just said, we show up rain or shine. All the time after a bad loss, we'll get people that are adding us saying, don't worry about the podcast, take the day off. Number one, we appreciate you thinking about our well-being. I do thank you for that. But we usually don't do that. We're going to be here. It won't always be great. It won't always be long. There might be some short shows if this season's still going this way later on in this season. But in the meantime, we'll enter the clip for you, and we'll have more to come. I think we'll probably have a show Friday night. I don't want to guarantee that, but it's probably the plan in the middle. And then, of course, you and I, the plan's always for us to be back on Sunday. So please stay tuned for all of that. One more time, please subscribe to the podcast, follow the show, subscribe, rate, review, comment, etc. We appreciate it, and we'll see everybody next time.